Today is the first in the series of video tutorials I'm starting, and we'll be going over creating custom brushes in Photoshop. I'm going to be using CS5, so you may have some slightly different functionality to work with depending on the version you're using, but the basics will be the same. First, you're going to want to start with a blank canvas. I like to use a 6x6 white canvas when I build brushes, but feel free to use whatever size you're comfortable with. Next, you're going to want to create the brush shape, keeping in mind that anything black will make up the pigmented portion of the brush, and anything white will be negative space. The shades in between will be somewhat transparent, darker shades being more opaque and lighter shades less. To create the brush tip shape, I either paint a pattern by hand or alter a photo that I get from places like cgtextures.com, which provide free assets for digital art use. Once you have created the desired shape, go to Edit, then Define Brush Preset. You will then be prompted to name your brush. Now that you have turned your shape into a brush, head to your brush presets and select the one you just created. Once it is equipped, open the brush panel. This is where the brunt of the brush building generally occurs. The best thing that you can do when you first start creating brushes is to experiment with all of the sliders and tabs until you have familiarized yourself with their functions or have adjusted your brush to your liking, but I'll go ahead and break down some of the key features really quickly. The Brush Tip Shape tab allows you to adjust the brush size, angle, and spacing of your shape. Most of the attributes in the main section will have a control setting beneath their sliders that allows you to attach the feature to a function of your hardware, like pin pressure or tilt. Shape dynamics is pretty straightforward. Each slider alters the shape that you created across the stroke in different ways. It can rotate it, increase and decrease the size, and squash the proportions. Scattering controls how close the shape stays to your stroke as you make a mark along the canvas, and how many shapes show up as you paint. Texture will take your stroke and overlay it with the texture you choose. Dual Brush will combine your brush with another brush that you select. Color Dynamics will control how your brush handles colors, allowing you to paint with more than one color at a time. Transfer controls how pigment is passed to the canvas. My favorite function in here is tethering opacity to pin pressure, so light strokes are lightly pigmented and heavy strokes are dark. Once you have adjusted the functions of the brush to create the effect that you wanted, to save a version of the brush with your settings attached, click Create New Brush. This is the icon that looks like a folded page at the bottom of the brush panel. You will be prompted to name your new brush. Afterward, you can find it and use it from your brush presets list. Now I'm going to show an example of how I built a brush for use in my Imperator Furiosa painting for FanArt 15th earlier this month. The functions I'm using here are size jitter to make the size variable throughout each stroke, flipping the shape along the X and Y axis for more randomness, and increasing the spacing for less overlap. I then adjust transfer so that opacity is bound to pin pressure. After a quick test of the brush, I make further adjustments, adding scatter and angle jitter to achieve the desired random effect. While painting, I create a dusty texture by building up a couple of layers using the brush. I start with a large size, soften it with a slight Gaussian blur, then change the blend mode to overlay. I repeat the process using the brush at a smaller size to make the texture grittier. The final effect is a stormy, sandy texture. So that wraps it up for creating custom brushes in Photoshop. The next tutorial I'll be working on will be about creating custom blending brushes, which will build on these concepts. Feel free to put suggestions for future topics in the comments below, and I'll try to accommodate as best as I can. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to my channel for more. And if you like my channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching.